Flying with an instrument can be scary, but if you know a few of the right tips and tricks for getting on the airplane early and getting your instrument into that overhead bin, then it doesn't have to be stressful at all, and it can even be kind of fun. Now, federal law says you can take your instrument on board that plane as long as it fits in the overhead bin, and as long as there is overhead bin space when you board the aircraft. So it's very important to plan ahead for those things. Now, if you play the double bass or something big like that, obviously your instrument's not going to fit in the overhead bin. You're going to be buying a seat for that instrument or maybe buying a collapsible bass. But if you play guitar, mandolin, banjo, fiddle, instruments like that, or if you do like I do and carry a mandolin and a fiddle in a double case like this Calton case right here, then you're going to be able to fit that instrument in the bin, and all you have to be able to do is get on the plane early enough to have bin space when you board the plane. This is heavy, I'm putting it down. Now, the federal law is federal law, but what you want to keep in mind is that the gate agent or flight attendant that you run into does not necessarily understand the federal law, and they could be brand new, could be their first day, and they didn't pay much attention in their training. They might not know that you're allowed to bring that instrument on. So even though it's federal law that you can bring your instrument on, be aware that you could run into an employee who just doesn't know what they're doing. And there's nothing you can do at that point. You're calling customer service and possibly missing the flight, or you're going to have to put that instrument in air cargo, which is not ideal because you've heard all the stories. Now, the good news is Southwest is the most instrument-friendly airline, hands down. That's because of their baggage allowance. They allow you to bring lots of stuff on the plane. And also because in general, they're just really friendly to musicians and customers in general. That's their brand. They also exclusively fly 737s. So that's the Boeing 737. You're probably going to run into the 737 700 series or 800 series. And those airplanes have really big overhead bins that fit instruments really nicely. So if you're flying Southwest, the musician's airline, you're going to be in pretty good shape if you follow these instructions. Now, number one is you've got to hit that like button. Okay, so you don't actually have to hit the like button, but it would be really cool if you would. It would help out the channel a lot with the YouTube algorithm, and I would really appreciate it. So here's what you really need to do. You need to understand the Southwest boarding process, and that requires you to understand the Southwest check-in process. So here's how it works. You go on your app or you go online and you buy your plane ticket. And then 24 hours before your flight, you're going to get a notification that you can check into your flight. And when you do, you're going to be assigned an alphanumeric boarding number. That's going to be A and a number between 1 and 60, B and a number between 1 and 60, and C and a number between 1 and 60. Not sure how far. I've actually never been in a C boarding group before. Don't plan on ever doing that. And if you follow these instructions, you're not going to have to do that either. So you're going to get this boarding group, and if you have just bought your regular ticket, you don't have status with Southwest, and you haven't purchased any of the other early boarding add-ons, we'll talk about those in a minute. So let's say you just bought a plain vanilla ticket, you checked in 24 hours in advance. It really doesn't matter how quick you are, how many people you beat, you are not going to be one of the first people on the airplane. You're probably going to land in the B boarding group. And that's not great if you want to be sure about getting your instrument in an overhead bin and getting a good seat. So there's a couple things you can do to make sure that you do get your instrument on board and that you get a good seat. And that starts with always purchase early bird boarding. Now, early bird boarding costs on average about 25 bucks, sometimes a little more, depends on the flight. And it can also cost as cheap as, I think, $15. So not a huge investment, but here's what it does for you. It gets you in that first group. Well, here's the deal. It's kind of supposed to get you in an A group, but I've had B before, like B like 20 or something. So it's not a guaranteed A, but it gets you closer to the front of the line to get on the airplane. And if you are, say, I don't know, 54, A54, even like B11, there's going to be plenty of bin space when you get on the aircraft. So always get that early bird boarding. You can double check that you got early bird. You can double check that you got early bird by looking at your boarding pass, and you're going to see a little symbol that looks like a rising sun. That's the early bird boarding symbol. If you don't see that on your boarding pass, you need to call customer service and say, hey, I paid for early bird and I don't see it on my boarding pass. But they're usually super reliable about this stuff. Just double check, but it's going to be fine in most cases. Now once you've got your early bird boarding, that automatically checks you in 24 hours before. So you don't have to go do that manually. You don't have to be watching the clock, setting alarms. It just does that for you. And then it'll let you know what your boarding position is. So let's say you got A46. And you get to the airport and you think, oh, I'd like to actually board a little bit earlier. Maybe you want a better seat. You just want to be really sure you get your instrument on the aircraft in the overhead bin and not in the cargo hold. Then you have another option, and that is you can purchase an upgraded boarding. The way an upgraded boarding works is once you have automatically checked into your flight or checked into your flight manually, you can do this either way, but if you're a musician and you're serious about keeping your instruments safe, then you bought early bird boarding. You got to buy early bird boarding. So you show up to the airport, and the first place I always check is when you go to drop off your luggage. Now, if you're flying Southwest as a musician, chances are you want to bring a bunch of stuff with you, and this is one of the reasons people fly Southwest, is you can bring 2 suitcases in the cargo hold, as well as a carry-on and a personal item. All right, had to cut there because my burger got here staying at the Sheraton in Raleigh for IBMA World of Bluegrass, and I got hungry. So anyway, where were we? Okay, so if you get a really cool agent, they're going to check right when you drop off your luggage, and they're going to see if they have any upgraded boardings. So they might say, all right, well, I can get you A10, for instance. It's going to be something between A1 and A15. The best I ever got was A2. It just kind of depends on how many people might have already done that and how many people with status with the airline have already bought tickets. Now that's a whole other subject. If you'd like to know more about how status with an airline works, with any airline or with Southwest, let me know down in the comments, and I can make a video about that. Just let me know what you'd like to see. So they're going to tell you, all right, we've got A10 maybe as an example, and it's going to be $35. That upgraded boarding is usually going to be $35, $40, something like that. I think they say it can be up to 50. Now there's ways around that, and the way around that is to get the right Southwest Airlines co-branded credit card. So I use the Southwest Priority card. There's also a Southwest Business credit card that does the same thing. What it does is it gets you 4 priority boardings a year for free in the form of a statement credit. So maybe that agent says, I've got A10, it's going to be $35. You give them that Southwest co-branded card that has 4 priority boarding statement credits. They swipe your card, and then the next thing that's going to happen is the bank, which is Chase in this case because it's Southwest. Chase Bank is going to issue a statement credit canceling out the cost for that priority boarding. So now you've got it for free. Now there's no guarantee they're going to have priority boarding available, but I've been lucky. They've had it every time I've asked for it. And worst case, hopefully you got early bird boarding and you're still going to get on the plane early enough to get your instrument up in that bin. So you swipe your card, they give you the statement credit, and then the best part is I noticed that they still issued rapid rewards points for the money that I spent when I bought these upgraded boardings. So assuming they're still doing that and that wasn't a fluke when I've had it happen, you're also going to earn rapid rewards points on that transaction even though it's not costing you anything. So that's pretty cool. If you want to get in on that, check out my affiliate link down in the description. It really helps out this channel a lot if you use that link, and you can sign up for your card. If you're approved, then it helps out this channel because they'll throw some points my way, which is nice because it takes a lot of work to make a video like this. So let's say the agent, when you go to drop off your bags, they either say they can't check for upgraded boardings or they're just really busy. Your next chance is when you get to the gate, go up to the gate agent and ask them if they have any upgraded boardings. And there's been times where maybe the person who checked in my bags didn't know how to check on it, or probably just didn't want to and said, sorry, I can't do that here. Well, you have that second chance. Go check with the gate agent when you get to the gate. And then if you're lucky, there's an upgraded boarding, and if you have the right credit card, then you're getting that upgraded boarding for free. Now, once you've done that, you get in line. You got A10, let's say. You're waiting in line. There's some things I recommend that you do before getting on the plane. And this is maybe just me being a little extra cautious that I do this, but I think it makes a difference just in case I run into an employee who doesn't know what they're doing. So what I recommend you do is get that instrument. I hope for your sake you're carrying it on a strap if it's heavy. And this really applies to the bigger instruments. If you've got a tiny little fiddle case or something, this really doesn't matter a whole lot. But get that instrument, and if the gate agent is on your left and you're boarding the plane, put that instrument on your right, and then I recommend, and I'm using my height to my advantage a little bit and my width to my advantage here, but put it on the shoulder and just get it at an angle so it doesn't look like a big, wide instrument. And here's the difference. It's not a huge difference, but every little bit helps. This is a big, wide instrument here. Put it more like this, and it's not very visible, especially if you've got your personal item like this backpack on like that. It just doesn't call attention to the instrument. That way, if you get somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, they just are less likely to even notice that you got the instrument. And then when you go through, whatever you do, don't be like, hey, I've got this gigantic instrument, and like it's supposed to be okay if I take it on the plane, but I don't really know, and you know, maybe I shouldn't take it on the plane. Is it too big? What do you think? If you do that, you're probably going to end up causing them to think, oh, well, maybe I'm not supposed to let this person bring an instrument on the plane. So just don't bring it up. Just walk through, and most importantly, be really nice. The people that work at the airport have a really tough job, and somebody was probably already kind of a jerk to them that day, unless you're on the first flight of the day, and then still, somebody's probably been a jerk to them. It's a really tough job. So be really nice, scan your boarding pass, smile, tell them good afternoon, good morning, hello, something like that. Just be nice, and then walk onto the plane. Or as George Carlin would say, in the plane. Now, on the off chance that they tell you, oh, that's too big, you're going to have to gate check it. The word on the street is, and this is the word on the street, I've never tried this because I've never been told I need to gate check my instrument. But the word on the street is that you say, okay, cool, and then you just have them put that gate check tag on your instrument, and then as soon as you're out of sight down that jetway, the word on the street is you rip that off, you put it in your pocket. The flight attendant doesn't know that you were given a gate check tag, and they probably don't care. My experience with Southwest, the flight attendants are delighted to have you on the flight with an instrument. So put that in your pocket. The gate agent is not calling ahead like, hey, we've got a guy with some kind of a giant instrument, and I've told them to gate check it, and I put a tag. That didn't happen. So the only person that knows that happened is the gate agent, and you're past them already. So then you just get on the plane, or in the plane, and you put your instrument in the overhead bin. That's just what you do. And then I guess at that point, if they were to stop you again and say, oh, you need to gate check that, you don't have much of a choice at that point. You're going to have to take it up with customer service. But that can help you get past a potential snag. Now, a very important thing is that you are already bringing a big old instrument on the plane with you. So do not fudge the rules with your personal item. So on Southwest, you get 2 checked bags that are going in the cargo hold. You get a carry-on, that's your instrument, that's what's going up in the bin, and you get a personal item. That personal item is going to be a backpack, a purse, something small, and it's got to fit under the seat in front of you. So don't bring a big old duffel bag with you and your instrument and expect to get on there with that. Did I say inspect? Expect to get on there with that, because that's just not going to happen, and that's kind of rude to be even trying that. This case is heavy. I got to put it down. So bring something small with you for your personal item. And then once you are on the plane, it's time to start strategizing what seat you're going to get. So for Southwest Strategy, it's open seating. You can sit in any open space on the plane. So if you're tall like me, you're probably going to be going for the bulkhead or the exit rows because there's a lot of extra space there. Now if you don't know what a bulkhead is, that's row 1, the very front row of the plane. It's got that little wall with the Southwest heart symbol on it. That's the bulkhead. Upside of the bulkhead is there's extra leg room and you get off the plane first. Downside is there's no place to put your bag under the seat in front of you because there isn't a seat in front of you. And often those bins fill up really quick. Anybody that got on the plane before you probably put their stuff in the bins in those first couple of rows. And it really doesn't make sense to put your instrument farther back in the plane and then walk forward, sit down, and then when it's time to get off the plane, you have to wait for everybody to clear out and go to the back of the plane, get your instrument, and then get off the plane. It'd be much better just to go farther back and sit near your instrument. Now, as you're boarding, it's really important that you don't bump anyone with your instrument. These big, heavy cases, especially a flight case, which I recommend you travel with a flight case even if you're not putting your instrument in air cargo. These big, heavy cases hurt a lot if you hit somebody with it. So be very careful. Carry it so that you're not bumping into people. Be extra careful when you put it up in the bin so you don't hit anybody's head. When it's time to get off the plane, be really careful taking it down so you don't hit anybody in the head, because that would really suck to hit someone in the head, especially for them. So just be mindful of that. Be careful as you move around. If you need to, let some people move before you get your instrument down. So once you've got your instrument up, you are good to go. And the only thing you need to watch for is sometimes other passengers who board later will try to move around your stuff. There is a crazy phenomenon on Southwest Airlines, which is that people will board in the C group, one of the last on the plane, and then be completely puzzled as to why there is no room for their big old carry-on bag in the overhead bin. And sometimes they will try to move your stuff so they can put theirs in its place. So you just want to be keeping an eye on your instrument, make sure nobody moves it. Don't get in any altercations. You don't want to get in a fight on the airplane. This is not United. But if you need to, get the flight attendant involved and just say, hey, this is my stuff, and I boarded early for a reason to get this in that bin so that I can get my instrument safely to my destination. Now, an exception is if a flight attendant comes to move your stuff, let them do it. They are like Tetris masters, and they will move stuff around and try to get as many bags on the plane as possible. It's for happy customers, but really the main reason is they don't want the flight to be delayed. They'd like to be able to push back and get to your destination on time. So if the flight attendant wants to move some things around, let them do it. It's their job. If you don't know this, the flight attendant's job is safety. It is not to get you your drink, not to get you pretzels. They do that, but that's just extra. Their job is safety, and part of that is moving things around, making sure it's all in a good place, and nothing's going to fall out of the bin and things like that. So just let the flight attendant do their job, and just keep one eye on that instrument all the time and make sure nothing bad happens to it. You should be good to go. It's pretty rare that anyone's going to try to move your instrument, flight attendant or otherwise, and once your instrument's there, you're good. Now, if you have a smaller instrument, I recommend putting it in a bin that is already somewhat full so that you're not taking up a huge amount of space for a low-profile instrument. And especially if you have a softer case, see if you can put that instrument on top of some other luggage in a bin so that you're filling a little space and there's no room for anything to go on top of it because your instrument is on top, and then close that bin. A closed bin is a full bin, and other passengers and even flight attendants aren't going to usually go opening that bin looking at what's inside. So at that point, your instrument's safely tucked away. People are going to gravitate toward other bins. So that's all you need to know about flying on Southwest Airlines with your instrument. They are known as the instrument-friendly airline for a reason, and that's because they're pretty cool about instruments. They're not going to give you any trouble. They have tons of room in their overhead bins for your instrument, and they have a system that you can work to your advantage to make sure you get on that plane early when there's plenty of bin space. So recap, the things you need to make sure to do are get early bird boarding, get an upgraded boarding, which you can do through a Southwest co-branded credit card and not have to pay for 4 upgraded boardings a year on that card. Check out the link in the comments. That is an affiliate link, and it helps out this channel a lot if you use that to apply for your card. Then once you are on the plane with that priority boarding, looking for a strategic place to put your instrument, hopefully getting a good seat in the process, the whole time being kind, courteous, friendly. Just be nice to everyone around so that you don't run into any problems, and because that's just a nice thing to do anyway. And then sit back and enjoy your flight. Because it's Southwest, who knows? They might actually be asking you to get out that instrument and play a little for the passengers, which I've done with my band a few times. It's pretty fun. So if you get the chance to do that, I recommend it. You can just add to the goodwill, or if you play the banjo, maybe just leave it in the case. We don't want to ruin a good thing. Look out for future videos on related topics, and let me know in the comments if you'd like to know more about, say, the Southwest boarding process, what kind of cases I recommend you use for flying with your instrument, what credit cards I recommend for a smooth flying experience, or anything else related to traveling with your instrument and traveling comfortably. Just let me know down in the comments what kind of videos you'd like to see, and I'll see what I can do about it. If you watched this far into the video, then either you're my friend and thank you for doing that, or it means maybe you liked this video. I hope you'll show that by tapping that like button down below. It really helps this channel out with the YouTube algorithm. And also consider subscribing to this channel. Make sure to hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. And if you'd like to support this channel further, check out the affiliate links down in the description and use those. It helps out this channel a lot. And I'll see you in a future video.